All right, I don't know if tier lists are completely out of style on YouTube. I know they were all the rage a couple of years ago. In fact, I did one on my channel as well, and it was a Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2 map tier list ranking thing, which is weird because it has nothing to do with any of the rest of the content on my channel. But I thought it was a cool video at the time, and I enjoyed making it, and people seem to semi-enjoy it, and it's very, it gets the conversational juices flowing when you do a tier list because you're just talking about your personal opinion, and then people can give their own opinions. So what I wanted to do today was make a tier list about the AAA game developer studios, because the gaming industry is just in a really weird spot right now where people are losing faith in AAA studios, and they're turning to these indie studios and these smaller studios to make the games that they want because these AAA studios are just not doing what they're supposed to do anymore. So I wanted to give my personal ranking on all these studios. This particular tier list, this was the best one I could find, but it is still missing some studios that I want to talk about. So I'll still end up talking about them, like EA and Ubisoft. I definitely want to talk about them, but they're not on here. So yeah, we're going from best of the best up here at the top, and then all the way down to corrupt and evil, which is the worst of the worst. And then I have a no opinion section because there are some publishers on here that haven't really played much of their games. I know of them, but if I don't really have an opinion on them, I'm not going to rank them. So we're gonna get started with 343 Industries, and they're the first one that's gonna go into the no opinion section because they are the creators of Halo Infinite, and I think they did the Halo Master Chief Collection and maybe all the Halos. I'm not entirely sure, but I've always been a PlayStation player up until recently. I got an Xbox Series S recently, and I actually really like it. But I still probably play my PS5 a little bit more just because it's a little bit more powerful than the Series S. However, I do love the Series S, but we're not here to talk about console wars or anything like that. But I played Halo Infinite a little bit, and I liked it, but I didn't get enough into it, so I don't really have an opinion on 343 Industries. Now, moving on to Arcane. Arcane Studios, I believe, is owned by Bethesda, and they've done some pretty good stuff. They've done Dishonored, they've done Prey, which is super underrated, they've done Deathloop, which is also super underrated, but they also did Redfall, and Redfall was a pretty big failure as far as I know. But as a whole, I think their whole body of work is pretty solid, and this tier list isn't so much about where they're at right this exact second, and it's more about their entire body of work. So I'm going to put Arcane in the solid section. I think they're a solid studio. They've made some good stuff, and no real reason to put them any lower than that. Next, we've got Bethesda Game Studios, and a couple videos ago, I did like a 25-minute rant video about Bethesda Game Studios, and they have, I think most of the frustration, it's not about them releasing terrible games like some of these other ones. It's not about them being extremely predatory like some of these other ones. I mean, obviously there are instances where they've done some really questionable business practices and stuff, but Bethesda Game Studios, for all intents and purposes, still has a really good catalog of games. I mean, Elder Scrolls, in my opinion, that's my favorite, game series of all time. Skyrim's my favorite game of all time, or it's tied with The Witcher 3 at least. And so, I love Bethesda Game Studios, and I think a lot of the frustration just comes from knowing what they're capable of and them not living up to it. Even Starfield. I mean, I made a video about how disappointed I was in Starfield, but I still have 100 hours in that game. I've still played a good bit of that game, and I still think it's a decent game. It just isn't what we wanted it to be. It doesn't live up to the rest of BGS. So what I'm going to do, because they are responsible for the Elder Scrolls, because they are responsible for Fallout, and because I think they have a lot of potential with Starfield, if you'd asked me this a few years ago, I probably would have put Bethesda Game Studios in the best of the best. I'm still going to put them in great, and I don't know if that is going to be controversial or not, but I think Bethesda Game Studios, their entire body of work is still one of the best overall bodies of work in all of gaming, so I'm going to put them in great. I don't think the recent stuff drops them farther than that, personally. Next, we've got BioWare, and BioWare, I think, gets a little bit less grace from me because it's been kind of massive failure after massive failure for them recently. Obviously, they are responsible for the Knights of the Old Republic games, which I haven't played because they're just really outdated, but I love Star Wars, and I love those types of games. So whenever the Knights of the Old Republic remake finally comes out, which maybe never, I will definitely be playing that. But that's really well loved by a lot of people. The Dragon Age series up until recently was well loved by a lot of people. They're responsible for Mass Effect. but obviously they're also responsible for big failures like Anthem. And lately, it's just been really rough for BioWare. It's been miss after miss for them lately. I actually liked Mass Effect Andromeda, which is the last Mass Effect game that came out. A lot of people didn't like it and said it wasn't, very good compared to the original trilogy. And, I agree. I think the original trilogy is definitely better. I still liked Andromeda, but it wasn't the best game ever. It's kind of how I feel about Starfield, where it was like I enjoyed it, but I could see why people didn't like it. And then, Dragon Age Inquisition came out. I think Inquisition came out before, it came out before Andromeda, but I liked Inquisition also. At the time, I really liked it, but I don't think Inquisition has aged very well. And then when you look at just the recent times, Anthem was one of the biggest catastrophes in gaming history. Just a massive flop, a massive failure. And then Dragon Age the Veilguard. People had been waiting, 10 years since the last Dragon Age game, and I won't get too deep into how I feel about Dragon Age the Veilguard, but I didn't like it very much. And so I think BioWare has kind of fallen into the not very good section. If you had asked this question 10 years ago, they might be up here in great, but I think the last decade has just been, nothing has gone right for BioWare, and they're like hanging on by a thread. If Mass Effect 5 is a failure, I think BioWare is probably done for, and what we know right now about Mass Effect 5, which is pretty much nothing, but the EA CEO Andrew Wilson believes that Dragon Age the Veilguard failed because it didn't have live service online elements. So that leads most people to believe that we're probably looking at an online situation, an online live service situation with Mass Effect 5, and people are going to hate that, and it's going to fail miserably, and at that point I think BioWare's done. Anyway, I didn't mean to go on that long rampage of talking about BioWare. Next up, we've got Blizzard Entertainment, who's responsible for World of Warcraft, Diablo, and Overwatch. Those are like the big things they're known for. I played Diablo 4 when it came out, a year or 2 years ago, and I actually liked it. I didn't get super deep into it, but I liked it. I thought it was a good enough game. I've never played World of Warcraft, and I've never played Overwatch, so I'm going to put Blizzard in the no opinion section. I know they get caught up in controversies all the time, and people don't like the way they treat their developers and things like that, but I'm going to put them in no opinion because I don't really have one. Next up, we've got Bungie, and they're responsible for Destiny 1 and Destiny 2, and I loved Destiny 1. In fact, when Destiny 1 came out, I was downright obsessed with that game. I was showing my character off to all my friends at school because it came with like a little companion app, and you could look at your character and all your armor, and I would play with my friends and stuff, and I have a lot of great memories with Destiny 1. I didn't play very much of Destiny 2, and I'm as far as I know, I think people like it. I don't really think it doesn't have the same hype that Destiny 1 had, but as far as I know, I'm pretty sure people like Destiny 2, but those are their only two games, so I'm just going to throw Bungie in solid, because they haven't really done anything else. So yeah, Capcom, as far as I know, is extremely well respected. They're responsible for Resident Evil, Devil May Cry, Street Fighter, Monster Hunter, Dragon's Dogma. They are a massive game studio, and as far as I know, they are a Western studio, or not a Western studio, an Eastern studio, so like a Japanese studio maybe. And I'm not really tapped into that side of gaming just yet. I've always kind of just been a big Western games fan, so I haven't really gotten into all that kind of stuff yet. I am interested in the Resident Evil series, but I haven't really played any of the rest of Capcom's games. However, I know they're really well respected, and from everything I know about all their franchises, their fans love them. So yeah, I'm going to go ahead and throw Capcom in great just because of what I know about them. I know enough about them to throw them in great, even if I haven't played their games. Next, we have cdprojektred, and cdprojektred for me is the first game developer to go in the best of the best category. They are responsible for two of my top 5 video games of all time, with The Witcher 3 and Cyberpunk 2077, two of my favorite games of all time. The Witcher 3, goodness gracious, it's up there with Skyrim. Skyrim and The Witcher 3 are interchangeable for my number one favorite game ever made. I love those games with all of my heart, and I'm so excited for The Witcher 4, and I think all the controversy around The Witcher 4 and Ciri and all that, I think that's so stupid. Obviously, the launch of Cyberpunk 2077 wasn't the best, but they stuck with it, and they fixed that game, and they added so much content to that game, and then they came out with one of the best DLCs of all time with the Phantom Liberty expansion, which was unbelievably amazing, and I just think CD Projekt Red is getting to the point where I may start putting them in the conversation with another game developer we'll talk about later, because I think there is one developer that is at the top of the game. But cdprojektred is very close, and for me personally, they are one of the best of the best. Next, we've got the Coalition, and they are responsible for the Gears of War series, and I've never played it. Again, I have always been a PlayStation guy. Never got into Gears of War. I know people like it, but I don't really know enough about those games or about how their fans feel about it to rank them anywhere, so I'm going to put the Coalition down in no opinion. Epic Games is responsible for Fortnite, which is arguably the biggest video game, the most popular video game of all time, I would say. I mean, I don't think that's a stretch to say that Fortnite is the most played video game of all time. You know, when you release a free-to-play game and you handle it the right way, which I'm not going to lie, people hate Fortnite and stuff. A lot of people hate Fortnite just because of how popular it was, and it's just not for them. But at the end of the day, they have really successfully run Fortnite, but that's their only game release. I'm pretty sure they're just a publisher. I think that they have their own storefront where they sell games and stuff, kind of like Steam. But their only actual game release is Fortnite. So I'm just going to throw them in solid. I mean, I don't really know if they're even a AAA game developer because they haven't developed anything other than Fortnite, but Fortnite's extremely popular, so I'm just going to throw them in solid. I think that's the right place for them. Next up, we've got From Software, who obviously Elden Ring, Bloodborne, the Dark Souls series, and those games usually aren't for me. I really liked Elden Ring, but I never could get into the other ones. Just a little bit too difficult for me. I know that makes me a wuss, and it's like, oh, skill issue. Get good, kid. But I'm just not the biggest From Software fans type of fan. I'm not the biggest From Software game fan, if that makes sense. That's not my thing. I play video games to chill and to get lost in the world, not to, punch a hole through my monitor because I keep getting killed by the same boss over and over again. But I did overcome that, and I played like most of Elden Ring. I got to the fire giant and then couldn't beat him and was like, okay, screw this, I'm getting too frustrated. But I played, a good amount of that game, and I liked it. But they do things right. They take care of their fans. And I know most people would probably want me to put From Software into the best of the best category. I'm not going to put them there just because I personally haven't enjoyed their games to that level. But they are in the great category. And I know some people might be like, how dare you put From Software in the same tier as Bethesda Game Studios right now? And I get it, but again, we're taking into account the entire body of work. And if Bethesda Game Studios hadn't been screwing stuff up lately, they would be up in the top tier for me. So just keep that in mind. Gearbox did the Borderlands series, and I've also never played that. I know I'm a terrible gamer. Look at all these massive games. Halo. If you look down at the no opinion thing, it's kind of crazy the amount of massive games that I've missed out on. Because if you look at 343 Industries, that's Halo. If you look at Blizzard, that's World of Warcraft, Overwatch, Diablo. The Coalition is Gears of War, and then Gearbox is Borderlands. I mean, those are some of the biggest, most popular game franchises of all time, and I haven't touched a single one of them other than Diablo. So, and I played, 5 minutes of Halo Infinite? No, not actually 5 minutes. I actually played it for a couple weeks. But, yeah, I don't know. Don't really have an opinion about Gearbox or Gears of War in general, so I can't really tell you how I feel. Next up, we got Guerrilla Games, and Guerrilla Games started off with Killzone, and then they ended up doing, Horizon Zero Dawn and Horizon Forbidden West. And I have a hot take, and people are going to disagree with me. I did not like Horizon Zero Dawn at all. I feel like it's one of the most overhyped games of the last 20 years. I'm going to put Guerrilla Games in the not very good, and this is my opinion. But I think Horizon Zero Dawn is just not that great. I don't think it's as nearly as good as people thought. And again, this is all subjective, and if you like the game, that's awesome. But I didn't really like it, and so maybe this is my first controversial ranking, but Guerrilla is in the not very good section for me because I just couldn't care less about Horizon, and it seems like they're trying to treat Horizon like it's some mega franchise, and I just don't think it is. Next up, we've got id Software, and they do the Doom games and also Rage, and Rage is very underrated. Rage 1 was an extremely underrated PS3 game, and I played it and I liked it. And then Rage 2 came out on the PS4 a few years ago, and I played that and honestly decently enjoyed it. And then Doom, obviously you got the Doom reboot, Doom Eternal, and then Doom The Dark Ages is about to come out. Doom Eternal was incredible. The first Doom was amazing. I loved that game. I keep right-clicking for some reason and on accident. But I'm going to put id in the solid section. I think Doom is awesome, and I think Rage is underrated, but I don't think they're quite on the level in terms of their overall body of work as these three, but I think that id is very solid. Id is also owned by Bethesda, so Arcane and id are both responsible for some pretty cool Bethesda games. So I'm going to put id in the solid section. Next up, we've got Insomniac, and it's really dark and you can't even really see their logo, but Insomniac is probably up here in the great category. They're responsible for the Spider-Man games on the PS4 and 5. So you have Spider-Man PS4, you have Spider-Man Miles Morales, and you have Spider-Man 2. I played Spider-Man 1 and Spider-Man Miles Morales. I have not gotten around to playing Spider-Man 2 yet, but it looks awesome. They're working on the Wolverine game. And then before the Spider-Man games, they were responsible for Ratchet and Clank, which is one of the most iconic PlayStation franchises of all time. So I'm going to put them in the great section. I think they belong up there with From and Capcom and Bethesda Game Studios. I think Insomniac is an awesome game developer. Now we've got Infinity Ward, and I think that's kind of interesting to have on here. They're responsible for the Call of Duty Modern Warfare franchise, and Modern Warfare 3 is like the Modern Warfare 3 from back in like 2011 is one of my favorite Call of Duties of all time. I just have a lot of great memories with that. And then recently, the recent Modern Warfare games I think have been decent, but not great. I think Call of Duty's kind of just fallen off in general. But I'm going to put them in solid. I don't think they've done anything necessarily bad, but they've just been doing the exact same thing for a very long time. So I'm going to put Infinity Ward in solid. Speaking of solid, Konami is responsible for Metal Gear Solid, which I've never played, and Silent Hill, which I've also never played. So I'm going to put Konami in the no opinion section because, again, I don't have an opinion on them. I haven't played their games. Larian Studios, best of the best, man. Baldur's Gate 3 is one of the best video games ever made. It is incredible. It took me a while to even decide to play that game because of the turn-based combat. And I'm not a fan of turn-based combat eventually, but once I got over myself and grew up and played the game, I really liked it. One of the best fantasy RPGs of all time, one of the best video games of all time, and Larian has been the perfect representation of how AAA studios should treat their fans. They have no stupid microtransactions, no paid expansions, DLCs, released an amazing game full of content. They've been extremely transparent with their fans. They talk to their fans on social media. They listen to fan criticism. So even if Baldur's Gate 3 is the only Larian game I've ever played, it's more just the principles that they live by that makes me put them in the best of the best category. And they just released one of the best video games ever made with Baldur's Gate 3. So I've never played any of the other Baldur's Gate games. I've never played Divinity Original Sin, but Larian Studios belongs in the best of the best category just because of the way they run their business. And I think that other AAA studios should take notes from them. Machine Games is an interesting one because they are also owned by Bethesda, I'm pretty sure. They are responsible for the Wolfenstein games, which are a pretty popular shooter franchise that did pretty good. And they also recently released Indiana Jones and the Great Circle, which was a resounding success. It was an Xbox Game Pass game, and it was big, and it was really well done. I played about 10 hours of it, but didn't get super far, or I didn't beat the game or anything, but what I did play was awesome. I enjoyed it, and so I'm going to put Machine Games in solid along with Arcane and id. I think they're right in that conversation with them when you take into account the Wolfenstein games and obviously Indiana Jones and the Great Circle. I can't say they've ever released a bad game from what I know, so I think Machine Games goes in that solid ranking, and solid's not a bad thing. It's a good thing to be a solid studio. Now we've got Mojang, and I don't really know where we put Mojang. They've only made Minecraft. Where do we put Mojang? I don't know. I have no idea where to put Mojang here. I'm going to put them in solid just because, Minecraft is maybe Minecraft or Fortnite. I know I talked earlier about Epic Games and Fortnite. Maybe Fortnite, or maybe Minecraft is the most popular video game of all time. I don't know. Minecraft or Fortnite, one of those two. Mojang is responsible for it. So, Mojang's kind of like Epic Games, where it's like they made one game that's massive and that everybody has played and everybody knows about, but they haven't really done anything else. So I guess Mojang just goes in solid. Now we've got Naughty Dog. And this is an interesting one. I'm going to go out on a limb as of right now. Naughty Dog's best of the best. The Last of Us 1, one of the best video games ever made. And this next opinion, people are probably going to be pissed at me. I think The Last of Us 2 is better than The Last of Us 1. I understand. I know there's going to be people who instantly, something switches in their brain where they just get so mad that I just said that they're, fuck this guy. I'm disliking this video. I'm closing off it. I can't believe he said that. What an idiot, blah, blah, blah. I love The Last of Us 2. I'm sorry. The story resonated with me. The characters resonated with me. The writing was great. The combat was great. It looked amazing. The level design was amazing. And I loved it. I loved that game so much. So not only do you have The Last of Us 1 and 2, which are both top 10 games of all time for me, but you also have the Uncharted series. Uncharted 4 is the only one I've played from start to finish. I loved that game. I played a little bit of Uncharted 3 when I was younger. I liked that game. So the Uncharted series and The Last of Us series, incredible. Now, that new Intergalactic game that they're releasing, I don't know how to feel about it yet. I don't know how to feel about the premise of it seems really cool, and everything I know about their ability to make video games that are interesting and compelling and have good stories and everything, I think that it could still be a good game. Again, I don't really know how to feel about the main character, and it's not because of anything other than the fact that the character kind of looks like she's going to be annoying. That's really the only problem. So the personality was just a little bit off to me, but we'll see. I'm going to give it a chance. I'm probably going to end up buying that game just because I believe in Naughty Dog. I believe that they're going to still make a really, really good game regardless of, what we think about the protagonist right now. So, yeah. Now we've got Nintendo, and I've never been the biggest Nintendo fan. When I was a kid, I had a Nintendo DS, and I loved it, and I played Super Mario Brothers and Mario Kart, and it was awesome. But I feel like you kind of have to put Nintendo in the best of the best, right? Zelda, Mario, all that. I mean, they are really, really good at what they do. And while what they do may not be for me, it's pretty much impossible not to put Nintendo in that category because they are really, really good at what they do. So I don't really play Nintendo games that much. In fact, I gave my Switch to my girlfriend because I never played it. But yeah, they still are very good at what they do. And even if I don't play their games, you can't put them anywhere but the best of the best. Now we've got Obsidian Entertainment, and this is another really interesting one. Obsidian Entertainment is responsible for Fallout New Vegas, which everybody loves. Everybody considers Fallout New Vegas to be one of the best RPGs of all time. And then they made The Outer Worlds, which was a pretty good game. I didn't love it as much as some people did. And then they released Avowed, which I haven't played yet, but from what I can tell, it looks like it's just a decent game. It doesn't look great. It doesn't look terrible. It looks decent. It looks serviceable. It looks passable. So overall, I mean, me personally, I've never been the biggest Obsidian fan. I like the type of games they make, the choice and consequence based RPGs. I love stuff like that. But their games in particular have never really resonated that much with me. I'm going to put Obsidian in the solid section because I think that they're solid. So, yeah. Respawn Entertainment, responsible for Titanfall, responsible for Apex Legends, responsible for the Star Wars Jedi games. And I think Star Wars Jedi Survivor is another one probably in my top 10 games ever. I loved that game. I wasn't the biggest fan of Fallen Order, but I loved Survivor, which was the second one. And I'm excited to see how they finish out that trilogy. And then Titanfall, extremely underrated first-person shooter franchise. And then Apex Legends has been a pretty long-standing and successful, shooter game. Battle Royale. So I'm going to put them in the great category. I don't really think Respawn's ever done anything that I don't like or that I haven't at least found serviceable. And they are also responsible for one of my top 10 games of all time. So even in this great section, there are levels to this because I obviously love Bethesda Game Studios a lot more than From Software and Respawn. But there's all these different factors that go into this. So we're taking those into account. Riot Games is responsible for League of Legends and I believe Valorant as well, as far as I know. And I've played a little bit of Valorant, not very much, and I've never played League of Legends. So I'm going to put Riot Games in the no opinion section because I don't have an opinion on them. Now, Rockstar Games was the company that I was talking about earlier with cdprojektred, where I feel like cdprojektred is approaching Rockstar territory. And I know that may be blasphemous to some, but if you really think about it, Cyberpunk 2077 or GTA 5? What's the better single-player game? Take GTA Online out of it. When you compare Cyberpunk 2077 as a story game and the world and the city and everything, I think Night City is just as impressive, if not more impressive, than Los Santos, I think the story of Cyberpunk 2077 is better. I think the gameplay is better. I think everything. So it's like if we're really comparing, I think Cyberpunk 2077 is the same type of game as GTA 5, but it's better in my opinion. Maybe that's blasphemous. I don't know. But Rockstar is the best of the best. The Grand Theft Auto series and the Red Dead Redemption series, those two series alone are the best of the best. There's a reason why GTA 6 is going to be the best-selling video game of all time when it comes out. There's a reason why it's the most hyped-up video game of all time. Because they just do stuff right. Red Dead Redemption 2 is in my top 3. I already talked about how my top 2 games are, The Witcher 3 and Skyrim, interchangeable. But Red Dead Redemption 2 is number 3 on that list. So, yeah, I'm going Rockstar in the best of the best. And there's a reason why everyone loves them. Because everyone loves their games. They're very high quality. And they don't rush stuff out. They shut up until they're ready to release it. And I respect that. I respect Rockstar. Whenever anyone hears about Rockstar doing something, everybody just listens and they pay attention. So that's big. Sony Santa Monica is responsible for the God of War games. I loved the 2018 God of War, and then I was one of the few people who did not think God of War Ragnarok was all that. I'm sorry. I just didn't think it was all that. I didn't even finish it. I thought God of War 2018 was significantly better than God of War Ragnarok. But I can still respect that it was a good game. It just wasn't for me. But I'm going to put Sony Santa Monica in the great category just because they make really, really good games. I think they're very similar to Naughty Dog in terms of just making a really good, emotionally gripping narrative with good gameplay and likable characters. That's what Sony Santa Monica did with the 2 major God of War releases, and I'm pretty sure they did the old God of War games as well. So Santa Monica Studio, they're in the great category just because they haven't really ever done anything too wrong. Sega is responsible for the Yakuza series and the Sonic games, among a bunch of other stuff. But again, I just never really got into the whole Eastern side of gaming. The whole Japanese, look at this, Konami, Sega, and I already talked about how I haven't played very many Capcom games, if any. All those Eastern studios, all those Eastern AAA studios, I haven't touched their stuff yet. And that's a whole side of gaming that I've not even approached yet. So, maybe I should get into that. Maybe I'm missing out on a lot. I don't know. But, so I don't really have an opinion on Sega. I don't really know what this is. I don't know what this logo is. It just looks like the top of a hammer or something. So what I'm going to use this for, since I have no idea what logo this is my Ubisoft and EA tile. And I'm putting them in corrupt and evil. Ubisoft and EA have completely lost the plot. Everybody and their mother who has a gaming channel has already done a rant video about EA and Ubisoft and talking about how terrible they are. But it is genuinely despicable how much they have just ruined their reputations by being money hungry, by being lazy. Like, Ubisoft and EA are the 2 biggest gaming franchises, or 2 biggest gaming publishers, studios, whatever, in the world. They are multi-billion-dollar corporations, and they can't do anything right. It really hits close to home for me with EA, with like the Star Wars Battlefront franchise and DICE. Obviously the Battlefield games from DICE have already, Battlefield 2042 was downright terrible in my opinion. And then Star Wars Battlefront 2015, I loved that game. Star Wars Battlefront 2, I loved that game. But they ruined the launches of both of those games because the 2015 Battlefront came out with little to no content, and eventually they added it with paid DLCs, but that game just was dead in the water when it first came out because of how shallow it was, even though I think that's an incredible game. And then Star Wars Battlefront 2, I have thousands of hours in that. In fact, my channel was literally built off that. I streamed that game on my YouTube channel for like 6 years. Literally, I'm not even exaggerating. I streamed Star Wars Battlefront 2 on this channel for like 6 years. That's where I got most of my original community from before I stopped streaming and started just making videos. But yeah, I loved that game, and they killed that franchise. They completely killed that franchise because they ruined the launch of Battlefront 2 with all those loot boxes and all that controversy. They put the game in a bad spot, and they had to pull out all their microtransactions because they were so bad, and they weren't making money off the game, so they killed the game while it was at the peak of its player base. They pulled the support for that game and killed the Battlefront franchise. Like, Star Wars Battlefront 3 could be out right now, but EA they just suck. And among other things, you can talk about the predatory practices in all their sports games where they're ignoring all the single player modes, and they're just, putting all their focus into the paid online, my team modes where people have to buy packs of cards to make their teams better. It's all they care about. And it's despicable, and I hate them. So yeah, EA sucks. EA is so terrible. I mean, they're lucky they have companies like Respawn, who are like literally the only franchises that Respawn is the only EA studio left that's not dragging them into the mud. And something's got to change with them ASAP, or people are going to stop buying Madden and stop buying the soccer games, the FIFA games. They're not called FIFA anymore, but people are going to stop buying those games, and then they're going to be cooked. So, I don't know. They need to figure it out. I hate EA. And then Ubisoft, they drove the Assassin's Creed franchise into the mud. They've completely abandoned franchises like Splinter Cell and even like the Ghost Recon franchise. That had a lot of potential when they brought it back with Wildlands. I liked that game. And then Ghost Recon Breakpoint sucked, and then they stopped making those games. So it's like all of these franchises that Ubisoft had that they have completely driven into the dirt. And then even like Star Wars Outlaws, which I was hyped at the prospect of an open world Star Wars Ubisoft game for a while, and then it came out and I haven't even played it because it just looks shallow. It looks like your typical Ubisoft game with a shallow open world, an empty open world with checkpoint markers everywhere and collectibles everywhere, and a shallow story and bad writing and bad side quests and fetch quests and all that. It's just lazy, and they've been doing that with Assassin's Creed forever. The last Assassin's Creed I liked was Assassin's Creed Odyssey. A lot of people didn't like that game. I loved that game. I think it's amazing, and obviously all the old Assassin's Creed games are really good, but I was really disappointed in Valhalla, which I was super hyped for that game, and I was really disappointed in it, and then I haven't played Assassin's Creed since, pretty much. So Ubisoft and EA are just money-hungry mega corporations, and they're doing everything wrong. EA ruined, the Dragon Age franchise by making BioWare, have to change what they were doing with that game so many times. So EA and Ubisoft, I could rant about how much I hate them forever, but we need to finish this video. It's getting way too long. So next up, we've got Square Enix, and they did Kingdom Hearts, Final Fantasy, Nier Automata, Dragon Quest, but they also did that failed Marvel Avengers game that came out a few years ago that everybody hated, and all the stuff has been pulled. And then I'm not sure, did Square Enix also do the Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League game that failed miserably? I'm not sure if that was them or not. But at the end of no, I think that was Rocksteady. Rocksteady did that, yeah. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm literally stupid and don't know what I'm talking about. But Square Enix, I don't know. I've never really played very many of their games, but they are like one of the best, I'd say, in terms of their whole body of work. I mean, Kingdom Hearts, Final Fantasy, Nier Automata, Dragon Quest, like those games are really, really well known. So I'm going to put them in great. I'm not going to put them in best of the best because, again, I've never really played any of their stuff. But they're just, it's another one of those, it's kind of like Capcom where it's like, they're just pretty well respected. And I know they lost a lot of the love with that terrible Marvel Avengers game. But yeah, I'd say that they're still great. And maybe I'm wrong. Let me know. Treyarch is another Call of Duty publisher, and they're responsible for the Black Ops series. Black Ops 2 back in the day is my favorite Call of Duty of all time. And Black Ops 1 before that was good. And Cold War. I didn't like Black Ops 3. In fact, Black Ops 3 is my least favorite Call of Duty. Sorry. And then Black Ops 4 just wasn't that good. And then Black Ops Cold War was okay. And then I barely played Black Ops 6. So, I don't know. I guess I'm just going to put them in solid. Along with Infinity Ward. I mean, Call of Duty is just so overdone at this point. I don't know. And then finally we have Valve. And I think Valve, I didn't realize how much Valve had done. I mean, Valve obviously, I'm pretty sure they did Steam. Like Valve created Steam, the PC gaming platform database. What am I saying? That I don't know what I'm talking about. I'm pretty sure Valve, the CEO of Valve, also started Steam. I'm pretty sure. I don't know. I have a PC, but I've never really been a PC gamer. But Valve is responsible for Team Fortress, Dota 2, the Portal series, the Half-Life series, the Counter-Strike series, the Left 4 Dead series. Like pretty much everything Valve has ever done has been a banger. I've played all of those games, even if I haven't been a PC gamer. I used to be a big CS:GO fan when I first got a PC, and then obviously Team Fortress is really well known. Dota 2 is really well known. Portal is really well known. Half-Life is really well known. So I'm gonna put them in the great category because I mean they haven't really released anything bad, but they also don't really do that much anymore. But pretty much everything they've ever done has been good. So I'm going to put them in the great category. So in terms of AAA gaming companies, I'm sure I've missed some. And somebody might leave something in the comments, and I don't know, maybe this video will get no views, and nobody will leave any fucking comments. I don't know. But maybe I'm missing some here because, again, this is just a tier list that I found. But as of right now, I can't really think of any. I just realized that I could literally have added my own images. So I could have added EA instead of using whatever the hell this is. But that's okay. And I probably could have gotten rid of some of these that I don't know anything about, and maybe that would have made the quality of the video better. Instead of yapping about shit I don't know anything about. I don't know. But at the end of the day, this is my final ranking. I think the best of the best right now is Rockstar, cdprojektred, Larian, Naughty Dog, and Nintendo. I think that Bethesda Game Studios is still great. They've had a fall from grace. I think they can get it back. If the Oblivion remake is good, which I made a full video about the Oblivion remake if you want to check that out. The Oblivion remake, if that is really good, that could bring them back a little bit. If Elder Scrolls 6 is actually good instead of extremely disappointing, which I'm not kidding, I will actually crash out and lose my mind if Elder Scrolls 6 is bad, bro. I can't handle that. If Elder Scrolls 6 is bad, I'm literally going to give up on gaming forever maybe. But yeah, I don't know. Bethesda Game Studios is still great in my opinion. Insomniac, Capcom, Santa Monica, FromSoft, Respawn, Square Enix, and Valve. And then Arcane, Bungie, Epic, Obsidian, id, Treyarch, Infinity Ward, Machine Games, and Mojang are all solid, decent, not great, but not bad either. BioWare and Guerrilla Games are not very good in my opinion. And then Corrupt and Evil, we've obviously got that. This block represents EA and Ubisoft, and I could rant about them forever. And then these down here, I have no opinion of. So that's my ranking. I guess they're not technically ranked, but this is my tier list of AAA game developers. So you guys let me know in the comments if you agree or disagree with this. And yeah, if you want to see more tier list content, I mean, again, I don't know if this is just so out of date that people are like, I don't want to see this crap. I don't know. But anyway, that's the vibe. So leave a like if you like the video. Leave a comment if you disagree or agree with any of this. I'm sure you will if this video gets any views. But yeah.